Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 93 of I Got Gameplay. Yes, this is an awesome episode that we're going to have, and it's just a quiet one as me and Jamie share a bed together. Share an episode together. And your host for this evening is not Michael Burhan. No, it's Miss Jamie Stiles. And Jamie, tell the folks what you'll be doing.
Alright, well, the initial plan was just to have an open discussion about Resident Evil, the best games in the series, the worst games in the series, best and worst characters, best and worst villains, storylines, and where, we hope that the series might go in the future.
So, tell me, how are you an expert in this? Because I want to know, and people want to know, how many Resident Evils that you've played, and also your love for the series, because I know for a fact if there's anyone that can tell you about Resident Evil is this young lady. Tell us.
Well, okay, it started, I think it was last year. I lived with my boyfriend, and he's always big into Resident Evil. He's played games of the series, he owns the movies, and he's like, okay, so we gotta watch this movie, you're gonna love it. And I'm like, okay. And so, I got started on the movies first, but...
Oh.
Yeah, I know, but after the movies got me into it, and then I started watching gameplay online of the games, and then I was able to see the movies' faults, but I can still respect them for being entertaining, at least.
Yeah,
and having Sean Roberts, the most attractive man alive to ever play Wesker. Ever. At all. So, anyway, back to the story. So, it was last year, I think, and Colin's like, let's watch Resident Evil. And I had half seen it, back at my house when he was living with me. And we're like, okay, so I'm watching it, and I'm like, it's pretty cool. I want to watch the rest of them. And so I watched the rest of them, and it was just kind of like a really steady, downhill descent from there. He comes home, and I had started watching Resident Evil 5, a Resident Evil 5 walkthrough, because I started with 5 because one of the people that I watch a lot on YouTube was playing it, had played it and just finished it up. And I'm like, okay, so I started watching that, and Colin comes home and I'm like, oh my god, there's this guy in Resident Evil, and he goes, you like Wesker, don't you? And I'm like, yes! And after Resident Evil 5, I watched 6, and then I watched 4, so yes, I watched them completely out of whack. But I've watched gameplay of pretty much almost all the games, and then I've pretty much read a lot of the wiki as well. Whenever I get really immersed in a series, whenever something catches my eye, I get obsessive over it. I have to know everything about the series, and with Resident Evil, there's a lot of things where if you don't get all the notes, if you don't unlock all the special files, then you don't actually know everything that went on in the game. If you don't pick up all the notes in Resident Evil 2, you don't actually find out the real reason why Chris skipped town. You think it's just because that people hate him because of what happened, when the real reason is because William Birkin pulled a hit on Chris Redfield. He ordered a hit on Chris Redfield, and that's why Chris had to split town in Resident Evil 2.
Don't reveal too much yet, Jamie, because we're going to be talking news first. So let's do it. Do you want to say the saying?
I'm not.
You want to do that? Do you want to do the saying? Do you know what it is?
You do the thing. You do the thing. I'm just here.
So, Jamie Stiles, what's in the news this week? And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I have someone actually over today who's just finished off his rather large European tour. He is the man himself, Random, aka Mega Ran. Say hi to the folks.
Oh my gosh, hi. This is awkward.
He's eating kebab, guys.
I'm totally eating. It's after a show, I'm tired and sweaty. But hi.
Yes. That's how you want your Mega Ran, tired and sweaty. Rob would love that. So, he's going to basically be chiming in every now and then, folks, while we're doing the show. because he's sitting here. Now, let's talk a little bit about the news this week. And there's one thing I think we need to get out in the open. Destiny has been getting bad reviews.
Yes.
And it's been stated that one of the reasons why Destiny has been getting bad reviews is because it's basically based on one platform than another. It's basically, you're having people versing each other, Xbox talking about PlayStation talking about Xbox, and fans are getting extremely frustrated. And another set of people are basically saying, oh, this is just Halo Reach gameplay. Now, in my opinion, I think people are getting this wrong because Activision has a 10-year plan for Destiny. What do you think, Jamie?
Okay, so I've seen, I watched the Rad Brad on YouTube, all the time, and he was doing Destiny gameplay, and I'm like, okay, I have nothing better to do, let's see what all the fuss is about. And so I started watching gameplay of Destiny, and number one, the graphics are gorgeous. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen, but the gameplay was something I'd seen before. It's basically Halo and Borderlands 2. So far, there's not been a lot of story. I think up to mission 5 or 6, I think. Was it mission 5? Anywhere from 5 to 10. I can't remember what mission I left off on watching. And there's not much story, and I'm a big story gamer. If there's anything that I love in games, it's story. I love it so much. And all I'm seeing is Halo and Borderlands 2. Though it is gorgeous.
So what do you think, Random? Do you think that people are just getting a bit over they believe in too much in the hype, that people are just getting issues just because it's not a game of choice?
I'm not too concerned with the story, particularly in Destiny. I just want to play a fun game. I figure at the end of the day, we've probably seen most of the stories before.
Exactly, and in what they say in Hollywood, every story is based off one single story.
Based off another story, so
yeah,
it's okay. I'm alright with that. As long as it's a fun, fulfilling gameplay experience, then that's all I need.
What do you think about the issues basically with Microsoft and Mojang? Are they potentially buying the company out? Do you think this is a good thing for the company? Do you think Microsoft will end up pulling the game from shelves?
I haven't heard much about it, actually. I haven't heard anything about that.
They're set to buy the company out for $2 billion.
They're buying what company?
Mojang, Minecraft creators.
Oh, okay, yes, okay. See, you cut out a few minutes ago, and I'm like, I don't hear anything. It cut out during the Destiny conversation. Anyway, but, gosh, I don't know, that kind of scares me, to be honest.
How so? Do you think they would be that stupid to cut off the other revenue streams like tablets? As Random was saying, by cutting it from other platforms, they're kind of cutting their nose to spite their face because they're getting so many revenue streams. There's portable Minecraft, there's Minecraft on the PC, there's Minecraft on the Xbox, there's Minecraft on PlayStation. There was even talk about doing Minecraft on the Wii U and 3DS. If they did that, they would literally lose a great deal of revenue coming in from the company.
Right, I don't know. I don't understand why they would buy something, why you would sell something like that. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't understand. I mean, I guess it's to get more profit, but I just think that they're going to mess it up in some way. They're going to do something just to royally fuck with Minecraft.
Well, what we were talking about quite recently about this is we don't think that they will take it from people. They wouldn't take it from the PlayStation 3 because they would lose out. They wouldn't take it from the PS4 because they would lose out. Maybe they would work on some exclusive updates only on the Xbox.
Right.
So I could see that, but I couldn't really see them taking the game off of other platforms because they would lose a huge revenue stream. For those who don't know, Minecraft's out on Android, it's out on your Apple devices, it's out on your PC, It's out on your PlayStation. It's out on your, your Xbox 360. It's out on your PS4s. It's literally out everywhere apart from Nintendo platforms. They wouldn't make that mistake, would they?
I don't think they'd pull it from shelves. I don't think they'd pull it from specific consoles, no. I think they'd tweak the game itself, but I don't think they'd actually pull it from shelves.
Okay. Sengoku Hime 5 has been announced for PS4 and PS3, and it would bring naughty bits to Sony's home consoles.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it's a rather naughty game, and it's coming straight to the PS4 and PS3 platforms. So yay for those with a pervy nature.
Wonderful.
Mortal Kombat 10 controller has been revealed. Now, the Mortal Kombat 10 theme controller has been revealed by GameStop at Expo earlier this week. The controller is very minimalist in design. It's missing the D-pad, and the triggers and the bumper buttons are all laid out to control the normal buttons to be more accessible in pulling combos. Do you care?
Not really. I mean, that's cool, but while I do like Mortal Kombat, no, not really. I don't care.
Well, I'll tell you what, ladies and gents, we're going to go straight on to our topic, and we'll be back right after this lovely commercial.
This is a mission, not a small time thing. Got me on the case like I'm Sherlock Holmes. My tone kinda messed up from what I've been seeing and what I've been hearing. Got me not knowing what to believe in. I was brazen, battling bosses. The record is flawless, 0 losses till I came across this stunning young beast who resided at the bottom of the sea. And she told me her name was Splash Woman, beautiful but deadly. She was mad cunning, had a voice that could soothe the savage. Beast of physique was way above average. Magic the way she got me in a spell, got me on lockdown, sorta like a cell. But I got a mission that I can't afford to fail. But girl, I got a secret to tell. I don't know how to say this, so I'ma just say it, that you're my favorite. Even underwater, I'm enchanted by your fragrance. You're nothing to play with, picture, be my baby. Or maybe we can get up out of this land and maybe get a bite somewhere, my dear. Even though she knew the truth about Rand, I had a feeling she wouldn't understand. Yo, I got a chance. I thought I was in love before, but I love you more. So baby, come aboard and go away with me, so I can make you see what you mean to me. And baby, we can be free. Oh, whoa, under the sea. Oh, whoa, just you. Seem like every couple years I get that feeling like I'm about to hit that ceiling. But I can't, cause it's time for spice. And when I reached the lair and it was time to fight, I couldn't do it, punked out like Ashton's victim. You started singing and I had to listen. It was lovely what you sang, the first came. All of a sudden the mission changed, insane. She told me about a true purpose. She used to save victims that fell through the surface. A few days ago the contract expired, and she was scheduled to be thrown into the fire. And while they gave her a reason to live, so now she gotta do what he says. She shed a tear and said, you don't understand, I gotta stick to the plan. I owe everything to this man, so please make a friend. Don't take it personal, cause it hurts, I know. I'll make it personal, but he saved me, baby. To turn my back on Wilder, you'd be just plain crazy. She said it's the only way it can end. Let the battle begin, and we can't be friends. So my heart sunk slow as the lair door closed. Through the mega buster, cause it's time to roll. Here we go. I thought I was in love before, but I love you more. So baby, come aboard and go away with me, so I can make you see what you mean to me. And baby, we can be free. Oh, whoa, under the sea. Oh, whoa, just you and me. So the battle was on and it was fierce. She hit me in the side and left the armor pierced. On the command, the fishes attacked me. I cocked the mega buster and hit him exactly. But the battle took a turn that was odd. Every time I fired a shot, she didn't dodge. She took each blast from the arm cannon, smiled at me as every shot was landing. At first I didn't know what she was planning, and suddenly I started understanding. So I think she letting me win, giving me what I need so I can get to the end. By the 17th hit, she began to stagger, fell to the ground, so I ran and grabbed her. Looked her in the eyes and she tried to laugh. pulled me close and handed me her staff. I said I wish I didn't have to be like this. I'm thinking he might miss her if she be my miss. She said, don't be foolish, you gotta do this. Let the whole city know what the truth is. Boy, you got stuff to do. I said, girl, I would've gave it all up for you. I feel invincible when I'm holding you, but as far as love goes, I'm over too. I thought I was in love before, but I love you more. So baby, come aboard and go away with me, so I can make you see what you mean to me, and baby, we can be free. Oh, whoa, under the sea. Oh, whoa, just you and me.
Okay, so Miss Jamie Stiles, let's start with our Resident Evil retrospective. Let's start with the game that held it all for each and every one of us, Resident Evil 1. Tell us your thoughts on that game.
I do like Resident Evil 1. I mean, it started the whole series. I mean, let's be honest, it was like it's what really started survival horror, along with the Silent Hill series and the Fatal Frame franchise. But my only thing is, I wish that when they did the HD remaster that's coming out, I wanted them to get the same voice actors and go back and add better voice acting.
The voice acting was terrible.
It was. I mean, is there anything more that we remember from the game more than, no, don't go? And all three of
That's
those
gonna make
live...
a Jill sandwich.
Oh god, and then all three of the actors were looking at a different place for the helicopter. Like, Chris was looking, like, slightly up. Wesker had his head tilted directly up above him, and Barry was just looking straight ahead with his head cocked to the side. And I'm like, oh god. No, why?
Yeah, I know, it's a fun... the dialogue is like the funniest thing in the game, because you're trying to like get immersed, and it does make you shit yourself, basically, with the zombies. Because the first time you saw these things, I remember playing the PlayStation, playing this game, thinking, oh my god, you know, this is really scary, and then seeing a zombie look up at me after eating a corpse. And then listening to the dialogue, which doesn't match up with how scary it is. It's like, oh, look out! You just sit there and you can't help laughing. It's like having the horror and comedy all in one thing. And I remember they did the re-release on the GameCube. Did you ever play that?
I haven't had a chance. The only games I've actually had a chance to play are 4, 5, and 6 due to just general money troubles and things like that. But I've watched gameplay of it. I have problems watching gameplay of the first Resident Evil because of the camera angles and how quickly it switches. It makes me dizzy. So I have to actually... I've watched as much gameplay as I can. I've read the wiki on everything. I know exactly what happens. I've read a breakdown of what happens in the game. And I've watched the Umbrella and Darkside Chronicles, which most people shit all over.
They're the ones, the rail shooter ones, aren't they?
Yes. Yes, they are. And while the rail shooter part of it was completely horrible, it actually went back and made the stories make more sense in retrospective. Like, because if you got Wesker's report from Code Veronica X, the special edition of Wesker's report, where he's just talking about everything that's happened up to that point, it sounds like he's freaking rambling to himself because nothing adds up.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you know, when Wesker was revealed as the villain in Resident Evil, it was just like, what? Him? Who? It's like, huh? Ryan, have you ever played, like, the Resident Evil 1?
Oh, yeah. I played it all the way through. I enjoyed it, but yeah, the bad voice acting. We used to play it with groups of friends and just cut the lights off and really try to enjoy it. But you're right, the bad voice acting just kind of takes you out of the mood. But
Right.
if there's some legit jump moments, you know, at least back in the day, I don't know about now, but yeah, I had a great time with it. And I thought maybe that was what they were going for, like just some campiness, you know, because then I later on played House of the Dead, which equally as campy in voice acting.
Those games.
But, you know, I thought maybe they were doing it on purpose.
Have you ever played Overkill on the Wii?
No.
Dude, you should play it.
Oh,
I actually think I've got it on my Wii. I might have a copy on my Wii. But that game, it brings it to a whole new campy level because it has that whole B-movie feel to it.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I always felt like that's what they were going for. But, you know, it's silly. You know, we would laugh about it. Barry, where's Barry? You know.
But where's Captain Wesker? He's in the basement. Shut up.
They're going to make you a Jill sandwich.
I almost got away without hearing that. Last year, I cosplayed Jill Valentine for the first time from Resident Evil 3, and I almost got away the entire time without hearing, wow, you were almost a Jill sandwich. And I see my friend in the hallway, and I go up, and I'm like, hey! And she looks up and goes, wow, you were almost a Jill sandwich. And I'm like, God damn it. It was my friend. I'm like, I trusted you.
I trusted you not to be a douche.
I'm like, I almost got away. I'm literally going to change, and I had to hear it at least once.
So, let's move on to Resident Evil 2 then.
Oh, yes.
They switched this game up from the initial gameplay of the first. You know, you played a selection of characters depending on who you want to choose in the first game. So you could be Barry Burhan. You could be, who was that nurse? What was her name? The medic.
Rebecca.
Rebecca.
Oh God, Rebecca.
Jill. You could basically, that's my wig. I don't,
What?
It's not a sex thing, I swear.
I was like, wait, what?
He just found my wig and he was looking at it rather weird. It's my Doc Brown striptease.
Ah.
Yeah. I'm Doc Brown with a striptease. He's now looking at me funny, it's weird. This is what happens when you invite people to your home. They start going through your stuff and finding stuff that they shouldn't find. But, yeah, so you played him, you played Jill, and you played, what's the main character's name? It's 2 a.m., folks. I'm practically brain dead.
Resident Evil 2?
No, Resident Evil 1.
Oh, main character's name Chris?
Chris Redfield, there we go.
Oh yeah, Chris, yay.
Alternative for 2, though, you had 2 discs, 2 games with 2 different people. Now, one was Claire Redfield,
Yes.
Chris's sister, and the other one was a guy who became famous for Resident Evil 4.
Leon Kennedy.
Leon Kennedy, a man who was he puts the bad into badass. Literally, is so fun. In this game, he's like a total and utter twerp. But he just becomes something naturally different and organic in Resident Evil 4, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Now, the great thing about it is if you play through both stories, you'd get 2 different like kind of endings. You'd get the Claire ending, and you'd get the Leon ending, depending on who you choose for. Now, Leon's like fresh off the force. He was transferred to Raccoon City to join the police department, and you know comes into the town being dead. Where Claire goes to town to look for her brother Chris, and stumbles upon this. Now, what's your thoughts on this? What did you expect when you played this game, or you've watched the playthroughs?
I really enjoyed Resident Evil 2. I loved the feeling of it. There was so much. It had my favorite villain in it. Well, okay, he's not a villain. It had my favorite character in it, and that's William Birkin. he's not a villain, like a lot of people think.
Why isn't he the villain? Because he out's-villainish.
Okay, so he is William Birkin, which a lot of people some people don't actually know that he's G, the thing that's following me throughout the entire series. I cosplay William Birkin, and they're like, who are you? I'm William Birkin from Resident Evil 2. Who? G. Oh.
So, tell us a little bit about G.
Okay, well, G is actually the virus. William Birkin himself, what happens with him, he works for the Umbrella Corporation, naturally. He joined at the age of 15. He's a genius. And throughout his life, he was a bit of, like, one step behind. He was known for his Ebola research, and then Alexia came along and stole the position in Umbrella that he wanted, right from under his nose. And she was 12, and he was in his late teens at that point, and he just felt just horrible for it, and so felt he had to compensate.
Imagine having your position stolen by a 12-year-old.
Yes.
That'd be like, imagine that random. Imagine having like a 12-year-old going on stage and rapping and then just like stealing your tours.
Stealing all of mine.
Yeah. Would you contaminate yourself with the T virus?
Just kill him.
Yeah, I have to kill this 12-year-old.
So basically, he does a lot of research. He gets into the nitty-gritty of the Umbrella Corporation. Best friends with Albert Wesker. And if you ask me, they kind of had a thing. Like, they were kind of a thing together, and it's cute, and I ship it. And I'm not ashamed. So, basically,
Two guys in place?
Pardon?
Guy and guy love?
Yes. They loved each other.
It's guy love, don't compromise when you're in love with other guys. Yeah,
but,
Random's getting worried. I'm going to start calling it Bear.
But what happened in Resident Evil 2, a lot of people think he's the villain because all you see him get shot, and he's got a gun on the Umbrella officers, and he backs up against a desk, knocks a coffee cup off, makes a loud noise, they shoot him, and they take his virus. He then injects himself with the virus to go after them. What you don't really know about him until you read the files and things like that is when he created the G virus, which he actually got from Lisa Trevor when he was doing experiments on her. He found the G virus, and he started working on it. It was almost completely finished, and Umbrella started pulling out all the shots to control him and take this virus from him. Basically, they were saying, well, you can have this, but you have to do this with it. You can't do this with it. You can't do this, when it was his property. Think of it kind of like YouTube copyrights, you know?
It sounds like basically working for a record label.
Right. So, he started seeing Umbrella's true colors, and he wanted to leave. So he contacted the US government and sold G to them. He basically said, look, you can come and take this if you protect me and if you protect my family. So Umbrella found out. Spencer found out, and what he did was he sent the Umbrella Secret Service, with Hunk in the team, of course, to go after William Birkin, and said, terminate him at all costs, at any cost. You have to get the virus back. If you ask me, there was no way that William was going to live through it. I think it was an assassination attempt, and they succeeded. Basically, once he injected himself with a virus, which he thought was going to save him, not mutate him. When he mutated, what G does is it recreates everything. When William Birkin actually died, he had 2 brains, 2 sets of lungs, separate eyes. He had 2 pairs of arms, depending on what version you're going with. It regrew anything. By the time that William Birkin went after Sherry, he was no longer himself. The virus had taken over with its primordial animalistic instinct, which was to mate.
Well, hey.
And it went after its own DNA because G knew what DNA could support it the best. And that's why he went after Sherry. A lot of people think he's the villain because he went after Sherry and, he destroyed the town. No, he didn't. When he mutates, he accidentally steps on a vial of the T-virus. It wasn't his fault. He's one of my favorite characters, and he's so misunderstood. And I don't know, I'm just drawn to him. I feel that feeling deep down in my belly guts that I like him.
So tell me a little bit about Resident Evil 2 then. What was your perception of that game? Do you feel like the game itself is underrated, or do you feel the opposite?
I really like it. I think that it gets, I don't think it's underrated or overrated. I love the game itself. I love Claire's story. I love Leon's story. I love the characters. I think the characters were wonderful. They did so much good with that game. The only thing I could think of that I didn't really like about the game itself was the fact that there was certain information you got in Claire's campaign that you didn't get in Leon's. In Claire's campaign, you actually got more of the backstory and the story of what actually made Resident Evil 2 happen, like why the outbreak in Raccoon City happened. And in Leon's campaign, you don't really get that information to an extent as when Claire talks to Annette. And that's the only thing that I didn't really like about it, but I still loved it. When I watched the walkthrough, it was just wonderful. I loved sitting there watching it with little Sherry and Claire and Leon and Ada, and it was just so cool. I loved it.
So tell me a bit about that and why you feel that the game kind of let itself down for being a double disc game that you played from two different perspectives. Do you feel that added to the layers of the game, or do you think it was just unneeded?
I think it added to the layers of the game simply because because they went their separate ways in the game and they each got different experiences. It was a really good chance to see both characters react and both characters interact with different characters. Like I said, the only thing is that I wish that Leon would have at least gotten the same information about the outbreak that Claire got. I think that, if you only play Leon's campaign, you don't play Claire's, you're going to be left wanting about why this happened. So that's the only thing I can think of. Also with Claire's campaign, you didn't get to see Ada as much, which I understand that because Leon's whole thing is Ada.
Yes,
but to me, if you're gonna have
sex in between, don't they?
Ada would have if Wesker wasn't watching her 24/7.
Well, no, I remember because you had the Resident Evil movies that they did, the CGI movies, and they actually hint at that the two of them had a relationship.
They wanted to imply that there was something that happened, or like whether it was just a meeting or whether they had a romantic relationship. And I'm like, they're together. Well, okay, I don't think they're together. I roleplay Ada Wong on Tumblr.
Sexy time.
And my opinion on that just is the fact that she does love Leon, but because of her work, she feels that if she got with him, it would be too dangerous. Like, there would be people coming after him to get to her. And so she keeps her distance, but she does love him.
We can get a bit more into her story when we talk about Resident Evil 6. So let's steer a course then and go for Resident Evil 3. There was two variations of this. Which was Code Veronica, which was only available, I believe, at one point it was only available on the Dreamcast.
Yes.
Then they released the other Resident Evil 3, which had, I'm trying to think. It's called Resident Evil Nemesis, I believe.
Resident Evil Nemesis, and it had Jill Valentine and Carlos Oliveira.
So, let's start on Nemesis first, and then talk about Code Veronica.
Alright.
Why did they have the need to release these two separate games on two exclusive consoles?
Resident Evil Nemesis was never really supposed to be a thing, actually. It was supposed to be Code Veronica to begin with, but they felt kind of odd releasing something that was so far away from Resident Evil 2, and so they made Resident Evil Nemesis. I'm going to get so much flack for this. I actually don't like Resident Evil Nemesis.
Nemesis was actually the prequel to 2, wasn't it? Or no, it was
yes.
It was the prequel, wasn't it?
It was the prequel / going on during.
Yeah, and / sequel, because 2 happened in between it.
Yes. Yeah, I actually don't like Nemesis. I actually don't like that game.
Why's that?
I hate the characters. I love Jill Valentine, but only because of the character that the movies gave her, and that's sad. The live-action movies had a better Jill Valentine than the games.
Yeah.
Jill Valentine is a cardboard cutout of condescending bitch.
So tell me why you think she's that condescending.
Well, she's all like tough and all like, oh my, if you see someone turning or something like that, shoot them in the head. You need to make sure that everything is going this way. You can't put anyone in danger. Meanwhile, as soon as she gets bit, she's like, oh no, I need help. Oh Carlos, don't let me turn. And it's like a condescending whore.
With his rippling Latino muscles.
His fake Latino muscles. His accent constantly goes in and out, which I think is the most beautiful thing in the world.
I will save you from the zombies, my dear. Dum 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 dum. For him to have that Latino music behind him. They do play a little bit more into it when they I believe it was in Darkside Chronicles. They talk a little bit more about it, don't they?
Yes, Darkside Chronicles, and if you play the campaign, Operation Raccoon City.
So, tell me a little bit about the Nemesis, and why do you feel that it did the game justice? Do you think that it was a proper Resident Evil 3, or did you like Code Veronica?
I prefer Code Veronica to Resident Evil Nemesis simply because the characters are better and I like the story. Resident Evil Nemesis, looking at the story overall, there are some major things that you're like, wait, what? Simply because Carlos actually created the cure for the T-virus, and no one has actually used that yet.
Wait, Carlos created it?
Yes. He didn't create it, but he found a way to make it, because Jill was supposed to... Oh, by the way, it took Jill 3 days to turn, and all the other zombies turned in, like, minutes, and Jill somehow magically was able to fight off a T-virus infection, and a Nemesis infection, which is closer to the progenitor tyrant strain.
So that's how Amazing Spider-Man 2 happened.
Oh my god, that movie.
It just sounds familiar, because you know the bit where his father's like lying there in bed and he's like, son, I'm dying. By the way, you're going to have the thing that I've got, which no one's going to know about, but it's uncurable, and you're going to...
Yeah, just by the way.
And you're going to die within 5 minutes. Bye.
Hey, but
Oh! Oh, Spider-Man can save you. No! Yeah, it's...
Yeah, so that's essentially what happened. And so while she's dying for 3 days, by the way, Carlos finds a note and he goes, oh my god, I'm gonna go make the cure for the T-virus. So he goes, makes the cure.
Without any knowledge, you're gonna make the cure for the T-virus. That's this note.
Yes.
Note.
Without any knowledge, he goes, makes the T-virus, cure, saves Jill, and then of course, he dies. And nobody has actually figured out...
My rippling muscles are dying.
By the way, you have the cure in your body. No one has actually taken the cure from Jill's body. No one has actually taken the cure from Jill's body. No one. And she has the T-cure, and I'm like, why?
Right, I just keep thinking about Resident Evil, porno movie now.
Oh my god, wait, what?
Oh, the fun way.
Wait, what? I've obviously missed something.
Yeah, you're missing the joke. I said I was thinking about a Resident Evil porno movie where you just have Wesker go, I'm going to take the cure the fun way.
Oh, hello, yes.
Let me take your temperature, Jill Valentine.
Yes, sir.
Oh my god, you're referring to yourself, aren't you?
No, why?
Anyway, segueing from Jamie's pervert fantasies, Resident Evil Code Veronica X.
Yes!
Let's talk about that bit.
This is one of my most favorite games.
Because, by the way, guys, we did end up getting Code Veronica on the PlayStation.
Yes.
If it was a PlayStation 2, we got Code Veronica X, which was another variation of this, because they got I believe it was the Dreamcast version of this game was on the PlayStation 2, but you got a lot of extras as well. I think it's when Capcom just realised that the Dreamcast version wasn't going to work very well, and they decided to port it to all consoles. Well, not named Nintendo. So yeah, talk a little bit about this game and why. Do you know what differs between the PlayStation 2 version and the Dreamcast version of this?
Yes.
Okay, tell us a bit about that, madam.
The differences in this was basically a little bit more exploration into the story, and they also brought in Wesker into it, and kind of told you a little bit more about what was actually happening on the island.
So how did Claire get onto the island? Because I know she was looking for her brother Chris, so she found out that he was on the island of Dr. Moreau. On the island?
Yeah, I think so. She went to a Europe facility,
yeah.
And basically she was all badass and had that famous scene where she dropped the guns and like picked them back up and shot the barrels behind the people that would have blown her to smithereens too, but we're not going to talk about that. And she wakes up in the something happens. That part I don't remember. I'm a bad person. And she wakes up on the island in the jail
of Dr. Moreau.
Yes.
Where's she going to be taken with Cheetah?
Yes. And she kind of has to fight her way through. Now, I really love Code Veronica's story. I love the Ashford twins. Their story is painful and creepy, and I love it. And I loved the light that we were finally getting on Wesker's character, because I do like him for his character, not just for his stunning good looks. And
she says that while trying to keep a straight face.
Of course. And it was just one of my favorites. To me, it had a really good feel to it. The only thing I didn't like about it was Steve.
Tell us a bit about Steve.
Oh god, Steve is the most obnoxious. Okay, for all of the ladies out there and all of the guys out there, when you dated when you're teens and you met that one person who was hot, but, like, they were, like, just, the most annoying thing ever, and they talk like this, and oh my god, my dad is just, don't talk about my parents because they want me in by curfew. That's what Steve was.
So, who is this guy? Who was Steve? Because how did he integrate into the story?
Okay, well, Steve's father was a prisoner, and he was, and he died and was infected, and in the end, in the game, you have to end up killing him. And so Steve was there as well.
Steve!
To make all the Captain America fans just die, just Steve! They're so...
Oh, we also have Bucky and Sam.
So, you get Steve, you acquire Steve, when he starts shooting at you from a turret. At least I think was that a turret or he was just shooting at you? I don't know, and I try not to remember.
Trade, like you've acquired Steve.
Well, you babysit him for the rest of the game. So, Adventures in Babysitting Part 1 was Sherry. Adventures in Babysitting Part 2 is Steve. So when you acquire Steve, you automatically, like, Claire and him kind of hit it off, and he was there because his father was there, and he was kept as a kind of like a juvenile delinquent.
Yeah.
And once everything goes haywire and he gets out, he finds Claire, and he's like, oh, wow. And then she, of course, the classic scene where she's bent over and sending the email to Chris, and, like, that ass.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, is that necessary? Is that necessary? Number one, they blew up her butt so big that it would have been, like, bigger than her shoulders in that one screenshot.
Well, Anita Sarkeesian, if you want to find a way to hate gaming, there you go.
Oh, God, no. I don't want to be giving this woman ammo.
Because there's a nice round butt shot for you.
Oh, God.
And even steal the YouTube footage somewhere. This happened.
Yes, and, of course, along the way, you run into Alfred Ashford. And you're like, oh, okay, we're on this guy's island, and he's crazy. And then along the way, you run into Alexia Ashford. And you're like, oh, she's cute. Yeah, good luck, guys. That's actually Alfred. So, that girl that you just called cute is a guy. I wish they would have delved a bit more into Alfred's actual mental disorder. But, that would have taken a lot of time. That's why I actually like Code Veronica, is because it wasn't just some guy on a bender. It was the fact that, Alexia was held in such high esteem, and she was a genius. And her and her brother genuinely cared for each other. Whether or not you believe they cared for each other in a sibling way, or they cared for each other, depends on personal preference and just personal ideals. When Alexia created the T. Veronica virus, she injected her father with it and just sat there and watched him die. When she injected herself with it, her body started deteriorating, and Alfred couldn't live without his twin sister. And he started going insane to the fact where he was his twin sister. Think of it like Psycho. Alexia was there. Alexia never left. Alexia wouldn't leave him. He needed Alexia.
Yeah.
And so he started becoming her. And he would be both Alfred and Alexia. And it was such a beautiful... The way they portrayed it was gorgeous. It was creepy. It was strong. You had this emotional bond for the Ashfords because of what they went through. Nothing stuck with me more than seeing Alfred, who finally sees Alexia, and then he dies. And when she finally awakens, she's naked. And she walks down there, and instead of getting clothed, instead of doing anything else, instead of figuring out why people are attacking, she just sits there and pets her brother's hair.
As you would freakishly do?
Well, it's her brother. The only thing left of her family, the only thing left of her twin. A lot of people say that twins actually share bonds, like they can feel what each other's feeling. She hadn't seen him in 15 years. She had been in stasis. And she wakes up and there he is dead in front of her. Because he saved her. Because he awoke her. And nothing stuck with me more, and nothing struck an emotional chord more than seeing her be, as Colin, my boyfriend, put it, clothes be damned. They killed my brother. And it was so emotional.
When you get to the end of the game, Claire basically faces off against it, doesn't she? So you have these two characters, and I believe the character in the Resident Evil movies was actually based on her in terms of powers and abilities.
Yes.
And when they initially conceived the movie itself, I believe they were going for the whole, she was going to get to that point. She was going to be this... She was basically going to turn into the villain, but they kind of changed it around and it made it its own thing.
Right. Concerning the movies in that standpoint, just randomly, just for a moment, we marathoned all of the Resident Evil movies back before Kanuga of this year, which was in February.
Yeah.
Because we were doing a lot of Resident Evil cosplays, and so we marathoned the movies. And while we were working on things. And we took it upon ourselves to start finding similarities between the games and the movies themselves, and what they missed, what they got wrong, what they changed. Alice herself is essentially a mixture between Wesker and Ada.
What do you mean?
Well, think about it. Blonde hair, blue eyes, works for Umbrella, was going to take the corporation down, which is Ada, bitch in the red dress, Ada, is able to have these superhuman abilities, like Wesker, in his second stage of Progenitor.
Yeah.
A lot of the things she does in the movies are Ada, considering the spying and the actual just specific things that she does. In another Resident Evil movie, in Resident Evil Afterlife, she gets several of Leon Kennedy's moves, which was why it was so awkward when they actually put Ada and Leon in the movies, like in the newer one. It was awkward because you basically had, Ada, Leon, and Wesker rolled into one character, and yet here they are.
Well, the thing that made me laugh about it was the fact that Leon was such a bloody emo.
Yeah, that was really, I did not... Bless Johann Erd, though. The one thing that made it okay for Johann Erd being Leon is because he got so excited over this role, and he literally went and played every game Leon had been in. He watched the movies. He specifically watched how Leon walked just to get it correctly.
So wrong.
He just got so excited over it, and to me that made it a little bit more okay, but we still don't approve of the casting.
Yeah, I just don't understand what they did with him. It was, for me, I understood that he had the look, but the way he was written, and this is the one that I hated about the movies, they wrote the characters from the initial games to be such morons.
Exactly. Like Ada. Oh my god, that pissed me off so much. The fact that she got captured.
Yeah.
And couldn't free herself. Her legs were free. Excuse you. She would have kicked someone's ass.
Yeah.
She automatically became damsel in distress, and that fucking pissed me off. The only one that was okay and written pretty accurately was Claire.
Yeah, they made her badass. She was being played by, I believe...
Ali Larder.
From Heroes. Yeah.
Ali Larder.
Ali Larder was basically just... She was
perfect.
She was sex on legs. In terms of the character she was playing as well. She played her perfectly. The thing is that bugged me about her was, I didn't see the way that the character worked. I just didn't understand why
she was in the series, yeah.
It made no sense to me whatsoever, and I don't know, I felt like they could have done a lot more with it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I'm happy with the movies for what they are. I enjoy watching them. I mean, Resident Evil Afterlife is one of my favorites. The only reason, that was another character that was written spot on, almost, was Albert Wesker.
Mm.
Almost. Almost, except...
It was, the whole, good guy thing at the end, I was like...
Oh, he's playing them, come on.
Well, we don't know. He's like, I'm president of the world, but...
Oh, yes, he is.
Over.
My thing is that Resident Evil Afterlife was more of an accurate Wesker simply because the fight scene between Claire and Chris and Wesker is pretty much spot on accurate for the fight scene between Sheva, Wesker, and Chris in Resident Evil 5.
Yeah.
They choreographed that exactly. The only thing that was wrong with Wesker was the fact that he was infected with the T virus and he had to eat people to maintain himself. That was just stupid.
Wesker, yeah.
I cringed. I cringed when I saw that. I'm like, no.
Yeah, I didn't understand that either. It was like, really?
I don't know.
It made no sense to me whatsoever. It was like, why would you go that route? And, as I said, the movies, we can kind of talk about it a little bit more, but I kind of want to focus on the games.
I understand. I had a thought and ran with it.
No. We probably will talk about it once we talk about reviewing the games a bit more. So, let's, the follow-on from that, from the Resident Evil 3, we then go to Resident Evil 4, which took... This game, for those who don't know, was part of the Capcom 5. Now, this game was released as part of a deal with Capcom and Nintendo to get some Nintendo exclusive content. It started with Resident Evil 0, which I don't really want to talk about because the game was a piece of shit.
Oh god.
And it was the start of the type of games where Capcom started adding buddies in. The secondary character that you have to escort everywhere on escort missions.
Oh god.
And that continued with Resident Evil 4. Now, Resident Evil 4 took a different turn. It went away from the Umbrella and the zombies and the T-virus, and instead brought Leon to an unknown town, but it also gave him some character development. It turned him from being this little kid into a badass. So, tell us about your thoughts on Resident Evil 4.
Another one of my favorites in the franchise. I love Resident Evil 4. It gives Leon Kennedy... I love Leon. He's like one of my favorites. I don't know. I love him. I love Ada. I love the separate ways story that they gave Ada. The story itself, I think they were very brave to take a step away from Umbrella and from the viruses in general and actually go with a parasite. I think that was a very brave move. Resident Evil 4 actually spawned Devil May Cry, because the first Devil May Cry was supposed to be Resident Evil 4, and they didn't like how it was turning out. And so they just went ahead and kind of finished it and made the Devil May Cry series. And that's why when you go back and you watch the original, like the first Devil May Cry, if you play it, basically Dante is supposed to be Leon. Virgil was supposed to be Wesker because Leon was supposed to be infected with the progenitor virus originally.
Yeah,
and
it's
you can
about the fact
also
he was supposed to be infected because he was supposed to be superhuman, wasn't he? They were going to give him a new lease.
Yes, he was supposed to be superhuman.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's great. Like I love where they went with Resident Evil 4. There was a lot of memorable characters and a lot of memorable moments as well.
Yeah, they were even going to do a ghost story with that, wasn't they, as well?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, one of the ideas I've seen, like, if for those of you who don't know the guy, need to check him out, Yuri of Wind, on YouTube. He is amazing, because he does, like, he talks about these beta games. And, he found that, like, some of the copies of betas of Resident Evil 4, and it was supposed to be a ghost story.
Yes.
But they went away from it because they felt like they were drifting away too much from the source material. Funny, they should have watched the movies. But
Oh God.
Yeah, but the fact is, you know, they decided to go a different way with it, and they decided to do it about this town. Now, what was creepy about this was the president's daughter was kidnapped, and Leon was sent to save her.
Oh.
So, let's talk to us a little bit about that.
Oh God, Ashley, no. That was the only downside of the game, was the fact that you had to escort Ashley everywhere. She couldn't die or else the game was over. She had no protection. She couldn't defend herself. All you heard was, Leon, help! Where are you going? Leon, wait, Leon, come back! Ah, Leon! And just Leon. She's a stalker.
Leon. Oh, Leon.
Oh, Leon.
So, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about that, and why do you think they decided to do this horrible escort mission?
Because it makes it more terrifying. I was playing Resident Evil 4, I've actually played that one, and I got to the part where, you know, you have Ashley and you're telling her to hide in the bins or whatever, and I'm battling this horde of Las Plagas infected. Okay, cool, no big deal. I accidentally hit the whistle button, where you whistle for her to come to you. Like a dog, yes. I have never felt more terror than when I accidentally yelled for Ashley to come here when there was at least 15 Las Plagas infected around me. I actually just screeched in anger and terror. Because it was horrifying, because she can't defend herself, and you have to defend her. And I'm like, oh my God, this is terrifying. You upped my chances of dying by like 30% just because she's there.
She's annoying as well. Extremely annoying. So
she is, like, she's one of the most annoying characters ever, just besides Sheva. Her and Sheva.
Do you want to talk about the big bad guy in this story? Because it's, you know, it's not basically a bad guy that we, you know, it wasn't Umbrella. It had nothing to do with the T-virus. It was these worms. So tell us a little bit about that.
Las Plagas was a parasite that was founded and researched by Luis Serra, who dies in the game via tentacle, which was odd. And Sadler and oh no, the little short fella. I don't remember his name now. The little pirate short fella that looks like Napoleon.
Is he the one that ends up basically becoming one with the freaking worm thing?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that. Ugh, that was sick.
Yes. So, Sadler and the little Napoleon dude.
What's it called? Polio.
Polio.
Yeah.
Poliosis. So we're sitting there. So he's like, they kind of start a cult, actually. And it was so weird. Like, they infected this town, and basically Louisiana was supposed to do what they said, and Ada ended up, like, saving him, hog-tying him, and throwing him in a closet somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little odd, but, you know, we don't question. But, the villains were not what stood out to me in the story, to be honest. The villains were okay, but they weren't exactly what made the game. The game was made for me by the actual playable characters.
Yeah.
Which is strange for me, because I'm very story-oriented, and I like knowing a lot about everything in the games. But the villains themselves didn't interest me in Resident Evil 4, but they were good for the game. They fit the game very well.
Yeah. So tell us the reason why, you know, progressing through this game, getting to the end, and then figuring out what this thing is, and how immersive this game was as well, because you got to find out a lot about what Leon was doing while he was away.
Right. There was so much in this game that was that made it good. I mean, they took such a step in the right direction with Resident Evil 4. With the ambiance and the noises, the infected, just everything was just so wonderful about this game.
Mm.
And the encounters that you had with Ada, with Luis, they all meant something.
But they were kind of few and far in between, weren't they? So there was situations that happened where she was always meeting Leon for one reason or another.
Right. She was keeping up with him. She was keeping track of him because once she saw him in the city, he still thought she was dead. He thought she died in Raccoon City.
Yeah.
Once she saw him, she knew that she had to protect him. She knew that he was here to do something, and he was here to do something good, and she had to help him. Because she promised, you know, she had that feeling for him.
Yeah.
And that's when Wesker kind of started getting uppity about Leon, or as he calls him, Leon, that Leon fellow.
Yeah.
And so Ada, all throughout the game, is always at least 2 steps ahead, but is constantly making sure that everything's going to be okay for Leon. Like, if you go in separate ways, and you go into the house where you get the shotgun off the wall, when you're Leon Kennedy, you can look at the shotgun as Ada, and you cannot take it, because she says, a shotgun, I better leave this for Leon, who might need it.
Mm.
She's always thinking about him, you know, even when nothing's really happened with him yet. She's always making sure that he's going to be okay.
Mm. So, you know, in terms of that relationship, and in terms of basically the situation that happened in Resident Evil 4, that then passes over to Resident Evil 5, which again we see more of they turn the kind of the mechanic that Resident Evil 4 had and turned it into a dual player thing. So now you've got this person taking behind you, and you have to basically take them through the rest of the game, and if one of you die, then that's it.
Right.
You know, so let's talk about that a little bit. And Resident Evil 5 got a lot of flack because a lot of people thought it was racist.
I know, and I'm like, really? Really? No one gave a care when they were killing Spaniards in Resident Evil 4. No one gave a care when they were killing Americans in Resident Evil 2. They're in Africa. In Africa. You want us to put a bunch of white people in Africa?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not racist. I think we're all equal. But in any other game, you can go up and just slaughter anyone of any other ethnicity. But you go to Africa? Oh god.
Yeah, it was like, you just killed loads of black people. That's wrong. But despite that, you know, Capcom, you know, they did add a few white people in there because I don't think they caved, because they didn't want to get into a situation where there was lawsuits flying out the wazoo. But they brought us together, and this was kind of the end of Wesker's story, in a sense. which I know you weren't very happy with.
No, I'm not. I'm fucking pissed about that game.
Now, tell us a little bit about that game and what annoyed you about it.
Resident Evil 5 was... Oh god, I'm going to lose. If anyone knows my YouTube channel and is watching me, I'm going to just get unsubscribed out the ass because Resident Evil 5 was the worst game of them all.
Well, a lot of people have actually said that. You're not the only one. That's a general consensus on the game. A lot of people.
Oh, that's good.
Because
and not just because I like Wesker. I don't want anyone to think that. I know I always play it up like, oh, he's like perfect, but it's just...
Well, it wasn't just that as well. It was the fact that people just didn't like...
The game sucked.
Yeah, and also the fact that, that Chris Redfield became Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I want to point out the fact that when he raises his arm, his bicep is bigger than his face. His bicep is so big that the game mechanics whack out and it phases through his chest. I want everyone to know that.
What are you doing? And this is the thing, it did make me laugh because of the fact here that it made no sense. It makes no sense at all why they would make Chris into this big ass hulking muscle bound guy. He was huge.
I know, the only thing that I can
figure... It's me look puny.
The only thing I can figure is that in Resident Evil 3, Wesker kicked the hell out of Claire, and, Resident Evil Code Veronica X, he kicked the hell out of Claire and fought Chris, and Chris wasn't able to do much because of Wesker's physical abilities. The only thing...
So he did a lot of push-ups?
The only thing that my boyfriend and I can figure is that maybe Chris felt like he needed to train to go after Wesker because he felt inferior. And so he got on steroids.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, can someone just walk up and pop the muscles, please? Like, just pick him with a pin, just prick him with a pin and just watch all the water flow out of his muscles. It's steroids, that's all it is.
So, in terms of that, basically this leads to the end. So, Chris finds out, what happened to, basically, what's the name? To Jill.
Yes, because Wesker, he didn't really kidnap her, but he did. In a sense, she tackled him out a window to try and save Chris. Which, fun thing is that canonically, Wesker actually grabbed, when they were falling, he grabbed her and rolled to where he took the brunt of the impact and saved her.
Yeah.
No one mentions that. But anyway, then he took her.
You still want to make him a good guy, don't you?
No, he is a villain. I just say that he did some things that no one actually knows because I think he was more or less conditioned to be that way because of the Wesker Project.
But he later became the head of Umbrella, didn't he?
He left Umbrella. He wanted nothing to do with Umbrella. He saw it was a sinking ship at the beginning of Resident Evil 0, and literally tells Birkin, Umbrella's a sinking ship, it's time to get off. And he starts his own thing. And no one really knows where that's going because he started his own corporation type deal, and it was never really brought up again. So we don't know what's going on with that. But anyway, back to Resident Evil 5. He took Jill and infected her with a special strain of the progenitor virus, which is the bug that's on her chest that he uses to control her.
Yeah.
Which basically just turns her into a special type of Ada Wong, because at least 45% of the moves that she uses are Ada's. And so Chris goes after her, naturally. Well, okay, he doesn't go after her, he goes after Wesker, and later ends up finding out that Jill is alive. In the early trailers, when we see long blonde hair and her eyes open, people actually thought that it was Sherry Birkin. People speculated that that's who was in the stasis, because at the end of Resident Evil 2, the original Resident Evil 2, Albert Wesker was supposed to be in possession of Sherry Birkin.
Yes.
But we didn't find out that they changed that, of course, until Resident Evil 6. And Dark Side and Umbrella Chronicles, we figured out that we found out they changed it, and the government got Sherry. So, during Resident Evil 5, Chris picks up the most useless AI ever, Sheva, and her character was so strong in-game. Like in cutscenes, she was a strong woman. She was a strong, independent woman, and she could take care of herself.
Yeah.
But then the gameplay starts, and it's constantly, I need your help! And she was just stupid. That was the most fantastic ringtone I've ever heard.
I know, I just heard that. I think it's Mega Man's phone. That's what I did. I just wondered what that was. Did you just get a text? Oh, you just got a text. So,
that was so cool.
So they basically went through this game. Then you get to the end where it's the big fight between Wesker and Chris. And it was terrible.
It
He
was
just injects himself with the virus, with the combination virus that he got.
It was so out of character.
Yeah, he mutated himself beyond, disbelief. Because the whole thing about Wesker was, he was done right. He took the virus, and it gave him the superhuman strength, and then he took this other one, which turned him into this big, hulking, monstrous thing.
It was terrible. While I will say that it was out of character for Wesker, you have to think that he did crack. If you play Lost in Nightmares, you find out that he talked to Spencer, which was kind of like his father figure, who was over the Wesker project where 13 children were kidnapped and experimented on to try to make them superhuman.
Yeah.
They say only one survived, which was Albert, but in reality, 2 survived, Alex and Albert. Alex Wesker is still at large.
Yeah.
And he has all the information on Project W, and basically everything else. I'm hoping that's where Revelations 2 is going, but anyway, we'll get to that later. You find out, that's when Wesker finds out that he was manufactured. And Spencer says, I was to become a god. You were supposed to be, the perfect human race, and you see Wesker crack. After that, you just see him, he was basically part of the things that he never really approved of. He was just another experiment. And that cracked him. So all through Resident Evil 5, you see him getting these flashbacks of, I was to become a god, and he ends up saying, the right to become a god is now mine. And he just loses it.
Yeah.
So throughout this game, he's battling with just this emotional distress of finding out that, you're not who you thought you were. For 50-something years, And so, I think one of the biggest things, a lot of people were like, you're gonna cry when Wesker dies. And I didn't cry when he died. I lost it when Jill told Chris to poison him. Because my thoughts were, that's such a bad way to do this. That's such a bad way to end this. Is to have him be poisoned? Where do you get off thinking that that's a good idea for this villain? One of the best villains in any game series. Because he, like you said, he was done right. He wasn't cheesy or anything like that. He was terrifying. Okay, he was cheesy in Code Veronica when he said, "Come little fishy, oh little fishy, come see my hook," to Chris. That was kind of cheesy. And very homosexual of him. But anyway. So we're moving on to that whole retrospect though, where he didn't really have a purpose anymore. He didn't really serve a purpose. No.
And they kind of eliminated him and failed. They failed to give him that final story that he should have had,
Right, which they did with a lot of characters. I feel like a lot of characters in Resident Evil in general do not have the story they deserve. Wesker was that one character that toward the end, when he mutated, we're like, okay, this is completely random, and his mutation doesn't suit him. Technically, he didn't even mutate, it was just the virus itself. And looking at his death, you have to remember that tyrants don't die in fire. Tyrants don't die in lava. Every single tyrant that was dipped in lava came back bigger and stronger. People have told me, well, he took 2 rocket launchers to the face. No, he didn't. I've watched that gameplay several times, and he ducks. It hits about 10 feet behind him.
So, basically, we see the end of Albert Wesker in this. A very stupid end.
I think he's alive, personally.
And then we move on to Resident Evil 6, which sees the debut of Wesker's son.
Yes.
And this game's kind of rather unique in a sense. It sold a ton for Capcom. It made a lot of money, even though it received very negative to mixed reception from people.
I know, and I hate that it got such bad reception.
I never understood why, though. You know, it basically, it told a good story. You know, when you go from Leon Kennedy trying to save the president, who's now a zombie, and then a woman who he suspects has done something, telling him to go with her, you know.
Right.
Then, we find that out, and we find Wesker's son, who is selling these chemicals, like these variations of the T-virus, to soldiers who can turn themselves into these, like, tyrant-like creatures.
That was Carla.
Now,
Jake never sold anything to anyone.
Didn't he?
No. He was an experiment. He's a mercenary.
Okay.
He was in the story because basically, he saw an ad or whatever to find these new quote energy boosters, which was the C virus, and that's how Carla got her experiments. They injected themselves. He didn't turn. Sherry Birkin found him, and basically through that found out that he had the antibodies to fight the virus because of Albert Wesker. It was Carla who was who was trying to give Ada a bad name and go in against Simmons by creating the C virus.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about that then. Why this game is supposed to be the next sort of phase now, because in Wesker's son there's a cure.
Yes.
There's a cure for this thing, and he finally decides to be the guy his father never was, and cure everybody like the disease. So possibly the next game in this franchise is going to be focusing on him trying to cure the world.
Right.
Then you have Leon's campaign, which is more about redemption, because the lady that he was with in it, what was her name?
Helena.
She basically is the one who ended up infecting the president.
Right.
Basically because she was told she wouldn't get her sister back.
Right.
And they then infected her sister, who they basically had to kill, because she was turning.
And that fight was just,
Yeah, it was kind of heartbreaking.
It was heartbreaking, it was very uncomfortable. I didn't see a reason why Deborah had to be naked and touching herself to taunt you. That was very uncalled for.
But again, the Japanese made it. What do you expect?
So.
So we went from that, and we then have Chris's campaign, which is more about trying to find a reason to go on. He just didn't want to do that anymore. He didn't work with the army. He didn't want to keep fighting these viruses. He didn't want to keep going on, and then he gets thrown into this kind of mission, and goes with the kind of the task force to stop the virus. And then these stories kind of intertwine in the middle. So there's a part where each of these individuals meet each other. Right. Now, in terms of the overarching stories, I liked it. I felt like it worked well. With Leon's story, with Chris's story, and with Wesker's son, with his story as well at the same time. They all worked. I think Buddy Combo annoyed me a lot, because every time my buddy died, there's nothing I could do about it. So, guys, if you can, work with someone online, don't work with an AI. Right. AI is fucking annoying. The AI in this game is terrible.
though slightly better than Shiva.
Yeah. Now, in terms of that, what do you think? What did you think of the game itself? Do you think it worked?
So, yes, here's my thing about Resident Evil 6. Everyone says, it's such a bad game, it's not survival horror. Look at what's survival horror these days.
Well,
they're trying to keep up.
Yeah, it was more Michael Bay first-person shooter.
Right.
Yeah.
That I will admit, I do think that they need to get back towards Revelations. But my thing is my only bad thing about the game was the fact that it was too long.
Yeah.
There were 4 campaigns, counting Ada's, though hers wasn't as long. I didn't like bringing Chris back. I felt like his story felt forced to me. It felt like, oh, well, if we're bringing Leon back, we have to bring Chris back. So we gotta make him a story. But I do see where it worked. I loved Piers Nivens, the character that was in with his story, which a lot of people hated. I love Jake Mueller, Wesker's son, which a lot of people absolutely hated with a passion. They said he was a Gary Stu, basically saying that he's perfect in every way, and that makes him stupid. No. You don't, or a lot of people are saying Wesker was asexual, he couldn't have a son, just whatever. Jake was a good character. The only problem with Jake and Sherry's character was the fact that they didn't have their own campaign. If you watch Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 0, and Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles, their game is basically based around interactions that their fathers had.
Yeah.
Down to recreating certain scenes that their fathers had. If they would have had an actual campaign, their story would have been done justice. Overall, I love the game. My only bad thing is, like I said, it was too long. And I think that there were too many QuickTime events. Also, there were too quick QuickTime events where it was like it flashed for half a second and then you died.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about those. Why do you think it didn't work?
I feel like QuickTime events are okay. I do like the fact of, oh god, I have to make a split-second decision. You have to do this, I have to do this. It makes it more intimidating at some points, but the fact that they threw so many in takes away from the story. Every single major battle, every single battle in general, you had a QuickTime event. And I felt like it really pulled away from the story in general. It threw you out of that immersion.
I agree with you on that one. And what was your opinion on basically the issues with like the people saying that the story wasn't good enough? They felt like it was just cut and paste what we've already seen, and how it wasn't a great continuation of the franchise. But I felt like it gave the franchise a bit of closure from one stage to another, and also the start, the whole idea that it was actually the vice president was trying to start the new Umbrella, in a sense.
Right.
Neo Umbrella, was it? I think.
Neo Umbrella, yes.
Yeah. Because he wanted to basically make himself billions. And they kill,
Right.
It's a great little story, and it's something that it has some substance to it as well.
Exactly. The interesting thing about Simmons, the bad guy, is the fact that he's actually been around from the beginning. It was actually him who nuked Raccoon City.
Yeah.
And it was him at the end of Damnation that Ada sold the Master Sample Plata to, which was technically a Maigini type, which was the Resident Evil 5 type that Wesker created.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that Simmons was in it from the beginning.
Yeah,
I think Simmons...
Wesker basically crossbreeded the virus with that thing, didn't he?
Yes. A lot of people don't know that Simmons was in it from the beginning because the only reason you find out is once again if you read the notes.
Yeah.
Which, I think that Simmons in the game, I think they could have done a bit more with his character. He was literally just there to mutate and to fight. I think they could have done a bit more to his character to give him more of a reason, but this game itself, the story, I liked the story. It gave everyone a bit more character. It showed what they've been going through. Both Leon and Chris have post-traumatic stress disorder, and it shows. You have Sherry, who is trying to right the wrong that her father did, but she's also forced to work for the government because she's a lab rat. And doing this work out in the field is the only way she can get out of the facility. And then she meets Jake. And Jake is going to be her out, I believe. I believe that they're going to work together. And I love the fact that the two families, the two bloodlines that started this, in a sense, are now going to end it. Another thing about Resident Evil 6 that I love is the fact that this was Ada's game. She finally got a story. She finally got something that revolved around her that gave her character.
Yeah, because she finds out that she was nothing but a clone.
No. She's not a clone.
Well, she was bred in a laboratory, basically.
A lot of people think that's true, but that's actually not the case.
Okay, so enlighten me.
Okay, so Ada Wong is the actual person. Ada Wong was not bred in the laboratory. The videotape that says Happy Birthday Ada Wong was Carla. That was the video of her birth. Carla was the woman in the blue dress, the clone of Ada Wong. Simmons was obsessed with Ada. She had always been working back and forth between Ada and Wesker. We believe that she was kind of playing Simmons to give information to Wesker. That's how it started.
Yeah.
So, she was constantly keeping kind of Simmons in the left wing. After she left Wesker after 2004, she left his employment entirely. Leaving his employment, she goes back to Simmons. While working for Simmons, he was obsessive and abusive to her. And she ended up leaving his ass. Like, I'm not working for you anymore, I'm not taking this. He got obsessive. And that's when you hear, that's when if you listen and pay attention to the cutscene, he says, that's not right, that's not Ada Wong. That's not Ada, go for Carla next. Carla's got the right genetic makeup, or the right look. So he, with the C-Virus, infused Carla with Ada's DNA, thus creating a clone.
Okay.
And that was the videotape that said, Happy Birthday, Ada Wong. That was Carla's birth. That was Carla's creation. Carla found out that she was nothing but a clone of Ada Wong, and cracked, and wanted to destroy everything that Simmons was, because she loved him and she trusted him.
So this
and he betrayed her.
Ada Wong. This was about Carla.
Yes. This was about Carla, but this was also about Ada's distress of everything, and what Ada has been through up until this point. Ada, throughout the games, has been nothing but, the sassy bitch in the red dress. And here you can tell she's breaking. At the end of her campaign, she just falls. She looks over and sees the picture of Carla and Simmons happy together, and she's just destroying the entire lab. And this is the only time when, if we look closely, we get to see Ada cry. She's crying and she's screaming because she's so done with this. But she destroys all of the files with Carla's name at the end, basically damning her, saying that this was all her fault. The entire outbreak of China is still under Ada's name. She left that uncleared. She basically said, this is my fault, I deserve this, at the end of the game, and walked away.
Okay, so, in terms of that, let's move on to the next game.
Alright.
Which was Revelations.
Yes.
This was a return to the old Resident Evil ways, in a sense, because it touches on more on Jill Valentine and also Chris.
Yes.
He kind of becomes the damsel in distress in this one, so...
It was gorgeous.
Fuck you, Anita Sarkeesian. But he becomes the damsel in distress here. And she's there tasked to save him. Now, this goes back to survival horror roots. So tell us a little bit about that, what you liked, what you didn't like in the game, and what you felt needed work.
I liked Revelations overall. I think the gameplay was the thing that really made it for me. I loved watching the gameplay. It was such a take back to the original survival horror ways of Resident Evil. That being said, the story needed a lot of work. The story, literally, I've watched the gameplay all the way through once. And my boyfriend's like, I really want to watch it with you. Okay, so we've tried to watch it 3 times, and we end up falling asleep. It's so boring. I mean, I loved the gameplay, except for the scanning part with the Genesis of scanning the little infected pieces. I felt like that was just obnoxious. I felt like it could work if they toned it down. I felt like the characters themselves were just, they didn't have a lot of work put into them. I didn't like a single character in this game.
Enlighten us about the story, and I know you had the issue with the swimsuit as well. So, talk about the story.
Yes.
Tell us what happened in this game.
The game begins when, of course, it's Jill looking for Chris, because Chris apparently just can't find his way out of the paper bag and constantly gets lost. So she gets a call that, she finds where Chris is, and she goes to this boat called the Queen Zenobia. The Queen Zenobia was a place for an outbreak after the Terra Grigia outbreak. So, she goes there and finds out that basically the entire place has just been overrun. And there was already members of certain places sent in there, like Rachel Foley, who is just basically sex appeal, considering they used her boobs to sell the trailer, and then just turned her into a girl with no background, which was horrible for me. I liked what they showed us of her in the trailer, and yet she's nothing but boobs and mutation. So she goes there and finds this mannequin in a room that looks like Chris, and she thinks it's Chris, so she runs in. It turns out it's not really him. And this company called Veltro is trying to be an umbrella kind of thing. It didn't work for me, honestly. I didn't like where they went with this. So then you have Chris and his obnoxious character, his obnoxious partner Jessica, who is just horrible. I hated her so much. Who are now going to try and figure out the outbreak. To be honest, a lot about this story wasn't memorable. The only thing I remember about the story, because it stuck, was the fact that Chris and Jill meet back up. Finally, this is set pre-Lost in Nightmares, so this is how they get back together. And it's kind of setting up Lost in Nightmares from Resident Evil 5. But other than that, I think that the game itself, the story, and the gameplay needed a lot of work, but the survival horror was there. The game itself, the frame rate was a bit laggy. Every time if you got the PS3 version, I think it was, if you go to open doors, it'll always freeze, and you'll always have this dramatic lag. That was horrible. So, those were some things that needed work. But on top of, just the survival horror, I think everything else needed a bit of work. Though they did make Jill her suit will not zip up all the way because her boobs are too big, and that's stupid. They would actually give her another suit that fit. And then we had Jessica's that had the leg cut out of it. Just because of sex appeal. And that was another one of the things that I didn't like about Revelations. It looks like they've really changed things up for Revelations 2, so I'm looking forward to that. And hoping that maybe things will be a little bit better.
So, the thing that I'm wondering about too is, did you see the article on it? They said it's going to be released in a episodic format?
Yes, it's going to be released in episodic format. You'll be able to buy the episodes first before it comes out on disc, but they will be putting out a disc. I don't approve of it coming out in episodic format. I think they're trying to be Telltale Games, and I don't think it's going to work.
Also, is it going to be a point-and-click adventure, or is it actually going to be a game?
It's going to be an actual game. But they're already doing some things that kind of scare me.
Okay, so let's elaborate on that. 'Cause basically, it's going to be you're going to be playing Jill Valentine again, or is it Claire Redfield?
Claire Redfield is finally coming back, but Alison Court is not voicing her.
Who is?
We don't know. The voice actress that has voiced Claire for every single game and every single movie has not come back for this game. They did not get her back. We don't know why, and the fandom is going nuts. Because why? This may be her last game, and why wouldn't you try to get Alison Court back? So it was just, I don't know. They're bringing in Moira Burton, which is Barry Burton's daughter, and they have reported that she cannot defend herself. The only thing she's there for is to hold a flashlight and to heal Claire.
Wait, so she's going to be basically the what was the word? She's basically going to be another one of those secondary characters that you'll have to look after.
Yes, unless they actually make it to where she can't take any damage. I don't know what they're doing with that. I don't understand why they think it's a good idea. But she's not going to be able to defend herself. She has a flashlight and she can heal Claire, and that's all she's there for. The description of her character is basically like she has, a foul mouth, but let's see if she can survive and take care of herself. And basically, they described Ellie from The Last of Us, and I'm worried that that her character is going to be a copy paste of Ellie.
Ah, yes.
The game itself, Revelations 2, looks really interesting. I'm really hoping this will be the first game where Alex Wesker gets to come in. I can't wait to see Claire Redfield back in action. It's been so long since she got a game that she deserved. But I'm really sad to see that Alison Court is not voicing her. Because to me, Alison Court is not only Claire Redfield. I grew up with her. She was Lunette from The Big Comfy Couch, which is a show that was from Canada, but was also aired down here in the U.S. And I grew up loving Lunette the Clown, and I was so happy. And then a few months ago, I was watching an interview with Alison Court, and she said, "Yeah, I was Lunette from The Big Comfy Couch." And Colin looks over at me, and I just start crying. And he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I didn't know that. She was my childhood, and now she's my adulthood as Claire." And so it meant so much to me. But seeing that the game that I'm finally here for, the game that I'll finally be able to hopefully get and play, she's not voicing her anymore. And we don't know why.
Okay.
And it upsets me.
Right, so basically, let's talk a little bit about the idea behind this game, because they're making the zombies smarter in this one, aren't they?
From what we've seen, they're going to be called the Afflicted. It's going to be closer to, once again, The Last of Us. It's going to be closer to those kinds. The bracelets are either causing the infection, or they're a way to tell if they're infected, if your health is down, or if your health is up. So, everyone has a bracelet. And when it's glowing green, you're fine. When it's glowing yellow, I'm assuming that's caution. And when they're red, they're afflicted. They're infected. We have no gameplay yet, really. We're supposed to be getting gameplay from the Tokyo Game Show.
Yes.
And we're supposed to be getting a full trailer. Like, a full trailer, hopefully probably with voice acting and more explanation of what is actually going on. More than the teaser and more than the first trailer that's come out.
Right.
So, we won't really know a lot until we actually see the trailer from Tokyo Game Show.
So, in terms of the Resident Evil games themselves, what do you think of the Resident Evil verse, what Capcom has produced? Do you think, like everyone else has thought, that the survival horror aspect is what made the games and they've kind of gotten rid of that? Or do you think, like everybody else, like another school of thought is that the change in the games has kind of helped?
I'm not sure. Like, I would like to see it get back to the original roots of the survival horror, but I also like what it's become. I didn't grow up with it, so I guess I'm not biased to how it used to be, and I'm not biased to it now. I started watching them kind of in between, and I can see the faults of this gameplay. I can see the faults of the original gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see the good things in both. You know, I like both. And I think that survival horror has changed nowadays. You look at The Last of Us, and that's a game that everyone's always going to remember, and it's a tough act to follow. You get games like that, and then you look at games like Resident Evil, and you can see in Resident Evil 6 where they were sincerely trying to figure out what is the next level. What is this next level of survival horror? Each campaign was a little different. You know, Leon Kennedy's was more toward the survival horror. Chris's campaign was more toward Call of Duty. And Jake's was more towards like Uncharted or like Assassin's Creed. They each had different elements to them that made them unique, that made them likable, and that made them unlikable. I think that with Resident Evil 6 they were giving a smorgasbord of trying to see what is the next level, what do people like, what can we do? And it seems in Revelations 2 they're taking a lot from The Last of Us, and that worries me. Because they're not trying, what if they're not trying to make their own thing anymore? What if they are just sincerely saying, well, this is what people like. So let's give it to them.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about now your idea of the franchise itself, because I know they're rebooting Resident Evil 1, and this may put the franchise back in perspective. They may be trying something different. Do you agree with that, or do you think that they're just trying to go for cash cows? Because I know Capcom hasn't been making the right moves as of late.
I think that the HD remaster, along with Resident Evil Revelations 2, is nothing but a cash cow. But I think that they could have potential. I think Revelations 2 has a great potential so far. The HD remaster, I'm not that impressed with it so far because all they did was hit the sharpen button. They sharpened a lot of the colors. If they had went back and maybe added better voice acting, better graphics themselves, instead of just sharpening the image, then maybe I would have more faith. The one thing I am excited about is if they're doing an HD remaster for 1, does this mean that maybe we're going to get a remake of 2? Maybe we're going to get a remake of 3. We've already got an HD remaster of 4. We've got the Gold Edition and HD remaster of 5 and stuff like that. I'm hoping that Resident Evil HD remaster will get the ball rolling for a Resident Evil 2 remake. That's what I'm sincerely hoping.
So let's talk a little bit about the franchise. Do you see if the franchise is gonna, if it will ever make waves or not?
I think it's starting to. I think it's starting to come back around. You know, I'm an avid con goer. I go to cosplay conventions a lot. And over the past 2 or 3 cons, I've seen more and more Resident Evil cosplayers coming out of the woodwork. I've seen more and more, you know, Leons and Adas, and I've seen more and more Umbrella operatives since Raccoon City came out. And I'm starting to see more and more people who are redoing their costumes, and I'm starting to see more Resident Evil meetups at cons, and I think that Resident Evil 6... coming up. We're going to be at Anime Weekend Atlanta, but only for the Saturday. So if you see us, please say hi, take a picture, and we'll be more than happy to take pictures with you guys. And go to my YouTube channel and like, favorite, and subscribe, and just kind of check me out, because I think I'm kind of cool.
I do too. It's why I allowed you to host the show today. So, guys, check us out on facebook.com/IGotGameplay for further posts. You can also check us out on youtube.com/IGotGameplay. You can check out the Nerd Genius, of course, which is my YouTube channel, youtube.com/NerdGenius. I'm still working on Silent Hill Genesis. We're going to have the Kickstarter up soon. I'm actually thinking of maybe debuting the Kickstarter at a local con. Basically doing it there first and enlightening people. I'm just trying to figure out which one we can do. And that's pretty much it from us, guys. And as always, I'm Michael Burhan. She is Jamie Stiles. And Jamie, do you want to sign us off with the I Got Gameplay sign-off?
Of course. Well, this is us for I Got Gameplay saying we've got gameplay.